I'm genuinely shocked that I consider this film as good as I do. Not when I watch it. The photography is so good I cannot help but love it, but when I reconsider its initial premise. A film whose plot synopsis is that of a 15-year-old girl crushing on an older man, well, I may find it unrelatable, unbelievable, or even worse, vaguely creepy, especially if helmed by an adult male as director Joao Nicolau is. And yet, there is a certain innocence to 2015's John From. Aesthetically, it reminds me of Almodovar doing Fassbinder doing Cirque, and I think it looks spectacular. I absolutely love the way that architecture is framed in this film. It is so symmetrical and satisfying. Narratively, this film succeeds probably partially, if not entirely, due to it being written by a woman, Mariana Ricardo, and a good writer at that. She is also credited for 2012's Taboo by Miguel Gomez, a very strong film, and Joel Nicolau's own earlier 2010 picture, The Sword and the Rose, which definitely deserves its own video eventually. As does Taboo, actually. Speaking of The Sword and the Rose, they share the same cinematographer, Mario Castanera. This is a director-cinematographer team for the history books, especially if they continue to collaborate in future. They have at least one other picture together after John From, although I am yet to see it. This feels like a film made for European art film geeks to admire its craft, its filmic ability, and identify its direct ancestry and so on. Actually, a lot of this feels like cliche coming-of-age existentialism common to 21st century European festival fodder. Not that I never like that sort of thing, but it has been done many, many times. How John From depicts this in contrast is with a vaguely humorous, sarcastically wholesome tone, which is bizarre, unique, and actually coheres fluidly as a consistent mood throughout the film. But then my criticism of the film is that narratively, thematically, it kind of goes nowhere. We have this playful 90-minute Rococo romp, and then our protagonist finds herself in an imaginary dreamscape version of a Portuguese neighborhood, finally permitted to be with the person she desires. I have to admit, I am relieved that it turns out a woman co-wrote this film. I mean, you know how it became just a bit more difficult to enjoy Leon the Professional the more we found out about Luc Besson? Or just the entire dilemma of watching Polanski's Tess, right? I'm glad that this appears to be a woman's creative imagination and not a male's. Like, imagine if Catherine Breilat's Fat Girl was written and or directed by a man, you'd think, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But instead we're like, wow, what an insightful vision of human character you have, Catherine. And rightfully so, you know. I mean, that's the reason why these films are effective in the first place, right? They compose believable and uncannily relatable psychological profiles so as to examine certain emotional spaces which are otherwise unexplored in more mainstream narrative cinema. That and they're well made, technically creative, and utilize the medium in order to maximize said narrative. A film which really teetered on the edge of me finding it kind of tasteless, frankly, and it's possibly only due to its precise screenwriting credits why I don't. And so while I am able, let us gift some praise to 2015's John From, a picture by one of Portugal's contemporary cinematic champions, and really one for all time given the quality of his output thus far, Joel Nicolau. Thank you all and have a spectacular day, night, wherever you are.